All right, we're live, and it's another lock and load on Monday Hangout, and we're going to talk bug out bags. And to introduce our panelists, we've got Dusty from Michigan, the beer brewer, and the guy with the bug out recreational vehicle or fifth wheel. Which, for the purposes of this chat, his fifth wheeler is his bug out bag. I'm a Hawaii Volcano Squad over on the Big Island, and we've got Squibload from Michigan, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and I guess he's a Josie Wales fan too. And so this was your idea. Why did you want to talk about bug out bags?
Maybe it's because it's a subject I don't know a lot about.
Okay. Well, I do have a bug out bag video on my channel, and it got like over 10,000 views. And people get real activated and animated over if they see something wrong in your bug out bag video. People have left me messages that are like, your bug out bag is too big, you can't possibly carry that much stuff, and or that you obviously don't know how to use anything in your bug out bag except for the siphoning, because I explained how to do that, but I didn't explain how to use every item in my bug out bag video, because the 30-minute video would have expanded to 5 hours if I did that. Yeah. And also they said, oh, your bug out bag's too heavy. I mean, World War II soldiers carried 100 pounds of gear, and my bug out bag weighs 40 pounds without water. And I have a day mission bag, which is a lot lighter, which I did a review of my Camelback preparation bag, which is like 10 pounds without water. Oily, prepper, and that's our other panelist from Oklahoma, where they have lots of Indian gaming casinos.
Yes, they do.
So if you guys out in the external have any bug out bag questions, we'll try and answer them. My idea for a bug out bag for myself was that I wanted everything that I could possibly need to bug out in it, that I could carry. I didn't load it up with ammo or anything like that, or food, because basically I want to be able to just grab my bag and be ready to go. And if I have time to grab some freeze-dried food or something, and I'll throw that into some other bag or into a vehicle. If I get to bug out in a vehicle, then I'll have room for more stuff. But it would really, as opposed to just at the last minute having to throw everything into a bag when you could take your time and prepare carefully. And it's just nice to have all that work done in advance and not have to panic at the last moment. I think that's the concept behind a bug out bag. And for myself, I have got a lightweight bag and everything, in it, kitchen sink, bug out bag. And so, you grab the bag you need for the situation. I think I was saying before the chat in the off air that like for the Big Island of Hawaii, the most common situation that I can imagine is a big tsunami. Either from like a meteor landing in the Pacific Ocean, or North Korea or Russia exploding a H-bomb underwater in the Pacific Ocean, intentionally create a bubble, and there's a 500-foot wave. I'm about 200, I don't know, what's it, 150 feet above sea level, and basically I'm a block away from the ocean, and on a hill, and I'm on a third floor condo. So it would have to be a damn ass big wave, like 400 meters or some incredibly ridiculously high tidal wave. But there'd be a warning, at least 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and I could just throw it in the bug out bag, or in the worst case scenario, just throw the bug out bag on my back and run. But if I could, if the roads were all jammed, I could do that. But I could put more stuff in my vehicle, and I have like a medical bag, and I have a loadout bag that could throw a bunch of food in, canned food and freeze dried stuff, and just throw all that stuff into the car, and a ton of ammo and all my guns. But but really, a bug out bag, I think it's just supposed to be, for me, it's fire starting, water filtration, maybe some cooking items, a tarp for shelter, and first aid.
So your bug out is more of a temporary type of thing rather than a long term?
Well, who wants to bug out long term? I mean, if I could survive for quite a while, but yeah, I don't have like a lot of food storage. My bug out bag is, it's just the basic. It's not the bulk stuff that you would need, like food, because that would just weigh a ton, except for freeze dried. I think I have like one bag of freeze dried food in there, or something, or some banana chips or something. Basically, I would put all that stuff in a different bag, but it's basically just supposed to be the basics that I would need. I could, I mean, like having a teapot and a pot and a pan, I think is, pretty luxurious for a bug out bag.
Yeah.
How many people have a teapot in their bug out bag? But hey, Skywarp in the external. Skywarp in the external.
Guns or ammo with you?
Yeah, but I don't put that in my bug out bag. I would just put that in a holster. Skywarp has a nice bench made collection.
How many mags do you take then?
Whatever I can grab, I mean, whatever I can carry. It depends. If am I bugging out in my vehicle, then I could take a shitload of mags. I've got a whole satchel full of AK mags. I have an AK magazine satchel that's just filled with AK magazines. I'll do a video of that, but that's not part of my bug out bag. The bug out bag is shelter, starting, first aid, and maybe some cooking utensils, and I think that's pretty much it. It can be communications too, but if you will have a little radio you can put in there. But I have a handheld that I did a video on, but really all that stuff is external. Guns and ammo, put them in a holster, or you carry one, or two. But if I could bug it in my car, then I just loaded it up with everything I could in the time that I had. But I'm going to assume that if you have to bug out, time will be an extremely limited resource that you have. Like the tidal wave is coming, the roads are jamming up by the minute, and you just have a few minutes to bug out and throw shit in your car. And maybe you'll have to leave your car if the tidal wave's coming because you're stuck in a traffic jam, and just take your bag and just whatever's in the car gets drowned in the tidal wave, or somebody loots it, so, and all you're going to have on you is your back. So you're going to need shelter, first aid, water filtration, and some way to start a fire and cook something, whatever you can beg, borrow, steal, or kill. And and it's nice if you have a hydration bladder. My bug out bag has a hydration bladder. My day mission bag is Camelback, has a hydration bladder. And I know you're supposed to drink out of the bladder, not out of your canteens or other, carrying devices. That's the whole concept of, the hydration tube. But so as far as how much you can carry, I think that's really an individual thing for each individual person. Like World War II soldiers carried over 100 pounds plus a rifle. And so, but I'm not 22 or anything. I'm, a lot older than that. And I can't do that kind of thing anymore. But I think 40 pounds was pretty reasonable. What I got lucky and I won a free bag on YouTube contest on somebody's channel. And it was a good bag. The thing about how much you can carry is that Rush 24, the Rush 12, the Rush 72 bags, by 511, I think. They have this egg and yolk, or not this egg and yolk. They have this strap and yoke system that it just really evenly distributes the weight on your shoulders. The way the yoke harness works. And so it's not, however much the bag weighs, it's not all sitting on the points where the strap is. It's really distributed evenly over the yoke of it that is along your shoulders. And it's not just in any one spot or two spots in the case of having two straps. And so the 40 pounds, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, it is 40 pounds. You're walking on it, and I did, walk around on the range all day, once with it, and I didn't have any problems with it. I'd rather not have to carry that much stuff, but I walked around all the range and went shooting with it all day, and it wasn't a big deal. I did add, because of the Mad Max thing, did have a tubing for us to use as a siphon for gasoline or some other liquid that I might need, to siphon from, which I learned from Mad Max, so, so I figured, and it's really cheap. You could get siphon tubing at Lowe's or Home Depot, just, really inexpensive, a few feet of tubing. And like I explained in my bug out bag video, which is one of my more popular videos, that, the old trick with siphoning is that the source that you're siphoning to has to be at a lower elevation than the source that you're siphoning from. That's the trick to making it work. It's not suction power or whatever, anything, you just siphon a little bit, you start the flow, and then you have to keep the end that you're siphoning from higher than the where it's going to has to be at a lower elevation. That's the trick for siphoning. It's physics. Don't ask me to explain why it is. That's just how it works. If you do that, it works. If you don't, it doesn't. So, so let me check over there on gun channels if it hasn't crashed, just to see how things are going over there. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on, or want to talk about their bug out bag?
Well, I think that, everybody's got to understand, like, what I would need to pack for my area is not necessarily what people further up north, like in Michigan or whatever, would have to pack. I mean, it doesn't get freezing cold except for maybe a few days out of the entire year. So my stuff would be for warmer weather. The likelihood of certain events happening in my area is going to be higher than in some areas, and vice versa. Some of the things that would happen like, I'm never going to have to likely worry about a tsunami in the middle of Oklahoma, but
unless it was a real big one.
Yeah, exactly. That'd probably be from a meteor or something, and then I don't think that we'd even have to worry about the tsunami. But like wildfires. I'm in Tornado Alley. We have a school south of us 7 miles that has been hit twice in 10 years. So those are the things that I need to adjust for. Even if a tornado doesn't hit my home, it still can knock out power for a very long time because I'm in such a rural area. When power goes out, they concentrate on the cities first, and then so I know my husband's grandmother lived in this area before we moved out here, and she was out for
Does your house
3 weeks.
have a tornado?
Like
Does your house have a tornado like basement or something?
We have a cellar that we can go to, yes, and every year we clean it out. I have a huge ice chest down there that just holds blankets, flashlights, candles, some food and water, some basic medical supplies in case there's flying debris and somebody gets cut or hit, things like that, to keep down there just to make sure. We can't even get a good radio signal, so taking a radio down there doesn't even help. And we need to set up an antenna to be able to get a radio signal down there. But so yeah, I mean, all we can do is just go down there and wait it out, and when it sounds good and quiet, then we can come out. but yeah, I mean, we've seen lowerings just right outside here, so everybody's going to have to pack for their area, what their specific needs are. One of the things after these huge wildfires through Texas, Kansas, and the panhandle of Texas, and in Kansas and in Oklahoma, there was a massive wildfire, and the wind was gusting to 60, 70 miles per hour here. which happens often, but when there's a fire, that can really make things spread quickly. And pair that with droughts that we've had, you end up with a very volatile situation. So, one of the things that I just recently purchased was fire blankets to have for our bags, because I thought, if we had to bug out, we get trapped somewhere, I want to have some kind of protection from fire if a fire were to get out of hand.
Yeah.
So that we looked at for our area.
I used to live in Malibu, so I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I had my house it wasn't a house. It was I rented it was like an apartment that overlooked the beach off of. It's across from Duke's now in Malibu, but Duke's didn't used to be there. Where it used to be across the street from the Union 76 on Rambla Pacifica, and it burned down completely in the fire. And in was it 91 or 92, and President Clinton declared Malibu a federal disaster zone. But basically, I was at work, and the fire started, in Topanga or somewhere, and the wind blew it. That we had I remember when I left home, I looked out at the ocean, because it was on a hill over the ocean with a great view. You could see all the way down the Queen's Necklace, and I could just look out and I saw the white caps on the wave, and I go, "Oh, it's like a windy day today." And I drove off to work, and it was really windy, and and that wind, it was like a flamethrower through the brush. It just So I called back from work, and I was just making fun, and I called the owner's husband, and I said, did the place burn down yet? And he said, "No, but I'm looking out the window over the hill, and I can see the flames coming, and it's going to burn down." so I said, "Well, just save my bicycle." It was the only thing, because I had this Davidson's steel double-butted tube bike, and it was I think it cost me $2,000 back in 1970 or whenever I bought it. I wasn't 1980, I think, and I was really into bicycling. I used to bicycle 80 miles a day, but those days are gone. and I'm an old guy now. So it's all they say was my bicycle. When I got back, it was just ashes. It looked like London after the Blitz. The whole street was just burned down. All that I could recognize was I had what are those workout machines? Those, anyway, all there was. Yeah, well, I had a Bowflex, and all that was left was the L, the iron part of it, and it was in the middle of all these ashes. And I actually saved that, and I moved it to the first place that I rented, and it was just underneath I didn't have any use for it. I didn't have, the wood wasn't there. It was just the L from the Bowflex. So I put it underneath the beach at the first place that I rented. The Red Cross gave me a first and last month's rent on the beach or whatever, and it's still underneath that place in Malibu, even though I don't longer live there, and that's how I got that's how I got addicted to the ocean, and how I eventually moved to Hawaii, because it was cheaper to live on the beach in Hawaii than it was in Malibu. But anyway, we've gone off of the bug out bag.
I was saying hi to Troy, who was out there. Sorry.
Okay.
Wasn't trying to interrupt.
No, hey, yeah, that's cool.
Well, one of the things I'm going to show y'all, and something that a lot of people don't think about for bug out bags, and some people may think it's kind of stupid, but a hot water bottle.
Okay.
And if you think about it.
If you're going to show it to us, you have to turn on your camera, though, because we've got your evidence.
I did.
Okay.
Is it not showing?
Yeah, now I see you. Okay, hot water bottle. Okay. Cool.
Just one of these hot water bottles. You just boil your water and pour it in there. And the reason why I recommend this is especially in the wintertime for somebody, or if somebody's going into shock and they need warmth for their body, you can put your hot water in here. You can put this actually between your thighs, and those large veins will help heat your body.
Okay, so a shock is from blood loss, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, from any injury, whatever kind of injury. It doesn't have to necessarily be blood loss, but a lot of times somebody who's going into shock, they will shiver, They need the extra warmth for their body. Their body's just overreacting. But especially for preventing hypothermia in the winter, you can put this in between your thighs, and those large veins will help warm that blood more quickly in your body, or you can hold it directly at your core, because that's where people have the issue, is whenever their body is trying to pull energy and blood flow from the extremities to go to the core to keep the core going. So if you have this at your core, then it's going to keep you warmer. Like if you get stuck out in a severe situation, if you have a way to boil water, you have a way to keep yourself warm, because this is going to stay warm for hours versus
how your body does it. What your body will naturally do is just shiver, and to create to burn calories, and because I only learned that because when I was in the rehab hospital, the Pacific, they kept it so cold in there because to fight so that staph infections wouldn't grow. They keep the hospital super cold, but I was freezing in there. I was all constantly shivering and asking for warm blankets. Drove the staff crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I was so glad to walk outside in the sunshine during the day, because at night it felt like I was in Siberia, But and here I was in Hawaii.
I've worked in hospitals for most of my adult life, and let me tell you, hospitals and medical centers and things like that, and they keep it very cold. Well, and the nurses are up moving around and stuff. So
and if you tell them, I told them I was freezing, and they put me down as a non-compliant patient because I was told them I was cold. I was like, Jesus, fuck, But at the end, I asked my folks to send me a blanket, an electric blanket. I was ready to just start a fire in the hospital room, so it's like, somebody. Of course, it wouldn't.
Like they walk in and you've got your blankets all piled up, and you're going.
Get a ferro rod and start a campfire in the hospital. I would have blown up the fucking oxygen tank. They have oxygen feeds. The whole hospital would have just blown up.
Oh my gosh, that was a visual that cracked me up.
I could just be in a hospital with a ferro rod, next to the oxygen, supply, trying to start a fire.
But the hot water bottle is something that a lot of people wouldn't think about, but really that's one of the best ways if you're in a life or death situation where.
I wish I would have thought of that when I was in the hospital. That's where when.
Oh, I go to bed with one of my water bottles all the time. My husband gets mad at me, but I'll put it at my feet because my feet get cold, and then I'm just freezing forever. So I just stick a towel, I wrap it in a towel and put it at the foot of the bed, and keeps my feet toasty warm.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask Squibb a question. How much of a loadout did you carry in the Marines? Like, how many pounds was your loadout?
I'm trying to remember the exact weight. I know I got in trouble one time for carrying more weight, but I really didn't care. I want to say our Alice packs were 85 pounds, but part of that was we had to wear a frame when we were out in the field. Every chance I got, I ditched that damn frame because it dug into my back even with the kidney pad. But I believe it was 85 pounds. And it was just a few days worth of supplies. We carried an extra uniform, extra socks, shelter half, tent stakes, sleeping bag with a waterproof bag around that, a roll-up styrofoam mat, MREs, at least 3 MREs. Let's see, what else do we have? A poncho and a poncho liner, so you had your wet weather gear. And there really wasn't much room for much more than that, other than like personal stuff like shaving gear, any sort of toiletries, or like a writing kit if you wanted to write letters.
So, but it was about 85 pounds.
About 85 pounds. We also carried...
Without water? Without water?
The water we carried in 2 canteens on our cartridge belt. So we had a cartridge belt that had what we called an H harness. So it was the harness you see that goes over the shoulders, and you can put a compass pouch on the harness. You can put a flashlight.
But you didn't have you didn't. I was going to ask. You didn't have a hydration bladder?
No, not back in those days. I'm an old guy too. Okay, so I'm trying to remember the first time I might have seen a Camelback might have been the first right around the time I got out. That sort of thing ended up at the surplus stores. See, that's one of the things that I carried that I got in trouble the one time is I put a 2-quart bladder canteen. I clipped it to my Alice pack, and I also threw a bunch of extra 7.62 by 51 ammo in there, and it weighed it down a lot more. It didn't stop me. I was young and strong, so it didn't matter. But yeah, I got in trouble for putting extra weight in there, and I didn't care. I wanted extra water and I wanted extra ammo. But we would carry our water on our cartridge belt. So on your cartridge belt, you'd have 2 canteens. You'd have a personal first aid kit. So there's your IFAK, right? You could carry your entrenching tool either on your cartridge belt, folded up in like a holster type thing, or you could mount it to your Alice pack. In some cases, you could have a machete, but that when I was in, you had to go buy that personally. They didn't issue that in supply, but back in the day, they would issue that in supply. And then if you had a sidearm, which not everybody carried a sidearm, you'd have a holster, and then you'd have 2 magazine pouch. Out in town, you could get a 4 magazine pouch. And then you could also buy extra.
So with your weapons, you were over 100 pounds with your weapons.
Oh yeah. I was. So the time I had the pack that was overweight, it was over 100 pounds, and then I had an 18-pound machine gun, and then I had.
That was your MOS.
I was 108.
You were the animal mother of the Marines. You were
just the animal mother. Our squadron was issued 2 machine guns, so I carried one of them. Most people wouldn't think of air wing guys as having a machine gun, but we had to be able to defend our position. So anyhow, the time I got in trouble for having too much weight, my Alice pack was over 100 pounds, and I had an 18-pound machine gun, and then I don't know how many more pounds of ammo on me, plus I was 180 pounds, and plus all my gear, so you got that helmet that weighs a lot. There was a guy grabbed me by the frame of my Alice pack and picked me up off the ground with one arm. That guy was strong. He was really strong. So, but this is what I was wondering. Okay, so you're talking about yours is 40 pounds, and soldiers have had to carry more than that. Here's the thing: if you're looking to run, then you're going to have something light. Otherwise, don't expect to run with this thing on.
I wasn't expecting to run at all. I'm a cardiac patient.
well, that's just but what I mean, HVS, is I could see somebody arguing that if it weighs too much, you can't run or evade from captors. I think at that point, you're not really trying to run. You just you want to have.
If I have to evade,
if you have to run, you're going to drop the bag. You're going to ditch the bag and go. The other thing is all the things that you can carry on you, like you're talking about, you're going to carry your pistol in a holster and you carry as many mags, but that's not going to be in your bug out bag, just like your knives wouldn't be in your bug out bag, right? So you are going to have some things on your person, right? Your IFAK or whatever is going to be on your person that if you did have to drop the bag, you'd get by without it. The other thing too is I'd say have good footwear. Don't be going out in a bug out bag, whether it's 40 pounds or 100 pounds, and be wearing flip flops or sandals. Wear some decent boots, because you might start out in the city, but you might end up in the country. And if you've got all that weight on there and you're hiking up a hill and you hit a rut or something else, and you step and you go to, if you don't have good boots, you're going to twist your ankle, whatnot, with all the extra weight.
You don't want to be wearing flip flops unless you're on the beach. No. I did a video. I have a video of my Loa boots because when I was using the Obenovs on the Loa boots, Obenovs leather protectant to condition them. But those have those Vibram soles. And after they wear out, you have to throw them away. You can't resole them or anything. So. I also suggest with those
that you pack extra socks in your bug out bag if you can.
There are.
Wet feet. If you got, okay, good. Because if you have wet feet, you're screwed. You're going to start getting athlete's foot or who knows what else. And then your feet are going to be so painful you can't walk on them.
You have to keep your feet dry.
Yes. Dry feet is important. You can wash your socks in a stream and hang them over something to let them air dry out and keep rotating out your socks. But because they're so light and because they're so compact, you can carry extra socks. And it's not really going to get in the way of other things. Plus, you can use your sock as a bag or some other. There are different things you can do with a sock. Another thing is for your boots, have some good insoles in there. That might give you more endurance. As far as you carrying that extra load on your body, okay, it's going to transmit all the way down into your feet. And if you've got decent boots, so you got good traction and got good grip, and you're not slipping with all this weight on you, or you're not having issues going over rough terrain. You might be able to get a few more hours of hiking out of your feet if you've got decent insoles. And a good set of insoles will, if you use them on a daily basis, you can get 6 months out of a good set of insoles. So,
yeah, my lows are pretty good, but eventually they'll wear out, and then I'll have to buy something new. But I haven't had any problems with them so far. I try and save them. I wear flip flops around town a lot if I'm just walking around. Shopping or something, or just going to the beach, because I don't need them if I have my good hiking shoes, if I have to bug out, I'll put on good shoes. But I do have extra socks, and the thing is that your feet won't heal from blisters or cuts if they're wet. It has to be dry to heal. So, and once your feet are done, then so are you. You're useless after you.
Yes.
Unless you have a car, and then you could just drive. But and the roads are open, and not all jammed up with everybody else who's trying to bug out at the same moment that you are. So,
you started this out implying that you're either bugging out on foot or you're in your vehicle and you have to abandon your vehicle. So the bug out bag we're talking about is just one personal bug out bag that you carry on your shoulders in a backpack, and it's got to be portable enough to be able to walk or abandon your vehicle. Do you have a vehicle bug out bag?
Not really.
Something that stays with your vehicle if you abandon it.
Yeah, well,
or that you can,
it would be.
If you're able to.
I have loadout bags. Like when you go in theater, they have, like Marines have, or Army. It's basically like it's like a suitcase except on rollers. It's just like a suitcase except it's like camo, and you can load up all your stuff in it, and that's what they do in the military. They load it up with all their personal tactical shit, and they report to the deployment base with their military suitcase with everything they want to go into wherever they're deploying with it. So I have one of those, a bag and a suitcase like that. That I think I got it off of. I think I showed the bag, but not the suitcase. I think I showed them both in my bug out bag video. Actually, I'm trying to pull up the website that I got them from. It'll take me a moment as I go through my prepper links. Oh God, my prepper bookmarks. I mean, that's the thing. Every time I'm on gun channels, I people recommend things, and I wind up with like 100 bookmarks, over like every month I add 100 new bookmarks of interesting guns or prepper related items. Let me find out. It was a store, maybe up in your area actually, that sells it. It had a picture of a lion on it. London Bridge Trading Inc. That's where I got it. They have some interesting gear. And they had a sale. They had a really cheap sale on the bag and on the suitcase, deployment suitcase. I'll try and find the link to it. If you're on gunchannels.com /HVS, I don't know if YouTube lets you put links, but you could search London Bridge Trading Inc. Let's see if I can open that in a tab and then copy the LBT Inc. Is what it is. Copy. I'm trying to do this with Glock in my left hand and
guac or Glock?
I don't have a clock. I have a Glock. Let's see. Where is it? Put in the gun channels. Good.com/HPS. Just enough weight to set up an anti-tank mine. That's funny, Jared. Okay. Hopefully I'm not going to be bugging out anywhere where there's anti-tank mines. Okay. I put it in the gun channels external. I'll put it in the internal of this chat if I could find my way to it. For the internal people. Vacuum pack socks? I don't even know how to do that. I don't have a food saver.
Well, you can get a hand pump one if you don't want to get an expensive one. But if you vacuum pack your socks, if you're walking in the rain, that's one of the, or your bag falls in the water, when you pull it out, it's not going to do you much good unless you have your clothes in a dry bag or vacuum pack. So
I do have a dry bag but I put the dry bag in my medical bag, not my bug out bag, because my bug out bag was already too full. I didn't have room for a dry bag in it, literally. So, and I won the mechanic dry. Or I didn't win. I got enough movie points from Regal Cinemas from watching movies to win a free mechanic of the movie Mechanic, the mechanic dry bag. With Jason Stratum. So yeah, I just bought it with like Crown Regal points and added that to my medical. So I would have a dry bag, but my socks aren't. My socks are in the bug out bag, which doesn't have a dry bag, but it does have a lot of baggies. I could put it in a baggie, and I might do that.
Yeah, I mean that at least, yeah. If you do that, that would benefit, and you could also put some tape over that seal over the top so that it'll seal it even further, like a good Gorilla tape or something like that.
Over the whole bag? I don't think that's necessary on my bag.
No, the baggie for like your just for like the baggie for your socks to be in or whatever.
Well, it's just a regular Ziploc bag should do it. Why would I need duct tape? The Ziploc bag seals it.
If it submerges, it may not stay dry. It depends.
And duct tape is something good to have just in general.
I have duct tape in my bag wrapped around some. I have a bunch of duct tape wrapped around a skewer, a cooking skewer, in my bug out bag.
Awesome. One of the huge mistakes also that I see a lot of families make, like if they're prepping for their entire family, like they'll have one person have a bag that has food in it, and the next person will have the medical, and the next person will have like the clothing. They separate everything out. Well, if family members get separated from one another, heaven forbid, if you don't have food, clothing, medical in all of those bags, way to make fire, things like that, then the person who's stuck with with all the bag of clothes, they'll be nice and warm, but that's not going to help them if they need to make a fire or cook something or, sanitize, like that. So, when I do my family's bags, everybody, except for the little bitty kids, of course, they can carry some clothes, some snacks, and things like that, but you don't want to weigh down their pack too much. But
do your dogs have? Do you have bug out bags for your dogs?
I don't. That's something I want to work on, but right now I'm trying to focus. I do have extra dog food and things like that for our home, but I don't have bug out bags for my dogs yet. No, I don't.
That would be so cool to have.
Yeah, I was wondering that as well.
So a lot of people have dogs, yeah, and I've seen gear for dogs and stuff, and vests and stuff. But I've even seen armor vests for dogs. But and I've seen some bug out gear for dogs too. But not having a dog myself, I'm just wondering if anybody, any preppers had bug out bags for dogs. I like dogs though.
Well,
I went to barbecue a steak today at the pool, and there was a dog there that as soon as I walked in, he knew I had like a steak, and he came over and he wanted to be my friend. He sat down by the barbecue, and the owners called him away because they didn't want him begging for food by the barbecue. But it was funny as shit.
Well, I
I
had
have a life vest for my dog when I take it out on the boat with me.
That's awesome.
Oh,
There you
I
go.
had a dog that my son took to a picnic, or not a picnic, to a thing with some friends. I thought he was just taking her to his friend's house then the day before 4th of July, and they ended up going out to the river, which is 30 miles north of us, and shot off fireworks, and it scared her off, and she didn't come home until 79 days later when we found her. So we just got her back in late September. So yeah, I'm working on, I started our preps for our family first, and now I'm working on having extra dog food, things like that for our dogs and stuff. But Amazon has a really neat deal where you can subscribe and save. So if there's something you're needing to stock up on, but you can't do it all at once, you can set it up on a 1 month, every 2 month, or every 3 month deal where they're sending you a certain amount however you set it up on whatever increment. So now I'm doing like 5 bags of dog food a couple of times so that I'll have several extra bags, and then I'm going to start backing off to 4 bags of dog food, doing that with some other supplies as well, so that I can start stocking up on some things that I don't necessarily think of that often. But
Yeah, I know that my parents have dogs, and that they went to great lengths to make sure they get dog food that's not made in China. That's all I know, because they lost their last dog due to cancer, and so
I nearly lost a couple of dogs from some high-end dog food, but it was poisoned. I know it was poisoned because every dog that tried to eat that, and I thought maybe it was just that batch, so I tried a different one, and they got sick again. So yeah, I'm real particular about my dog's food now.
Some of the Costco dog treats are from China, and their food safety isn't as very stringent at all. So I've heard there are problems with some of Costco's dog food. So that's one made in America thing you might want to get for your dogs, but. Okay, somebody asked about essential oils for your dogs, but I'd be wondering what essential oils you would get for for people. I know that I think it was Around the Cabin, they had I bookmarked another page. Here I go again on somebody who does that professionally, who sells like their essential oils, and they're like all professional and shit about it. Let me see, find the damn bookmark. It was Dreamcatcher Botanicals.
There's a lot of essential oil people out there. I don't sell it or sign anyone up, because if I do, then I can't be 100% honest about what essential oils I use for what particular health issue that's going on. So like legally, the FDA, if I was signing people up under me, I couldn't say that peppermint helps migraines. That they consider that like somebody prescribing. So that's why I don't sign anybody up under me or anything. So but essential oils actually are awesome to have in a bug out bag. You can get small vials so that you just have some small batches, but things like lavender's great for burns. Make sure it's Lavandula augustifolia and not anything else, because it's got to be the true lavender, and you want to make sure you use 100% therapeutic grade, because on a burn, if you put the fake lavender on there, or the not the true lavender, it can actually intensify that burn. But real lavender will actually soothe it, and it'll actually help that burn heal more quickly, and it has antibacterial properties to help keep that burn from getting infected. So that's one of the big ones that I suggest to put in a bug out bag.
We had on Gun Channels, we had a link of someone who was into that, as far as just how to create tinctures and oils, but it didn't really. The main thing you have to know is, you have to know, which what herbs and botanicals do what, and in order to, but because there's a playlist that I put on gunchannels.com/prepper, and because that was a girl who was on our chat once that's really into that, and she made a playlist, not her videos, but of other people's videos on how to make tinctures and stuff, and but it had the basics of how to do that, and how to make tinctures and infusions, but you have to really know what your herbs do, and I don't know, that's beyond making a bug out bag for me, but there's that information is there on gunchannels.com/prepper. I tried to make something on gunchannels.com for prepping people. I know a lot of people on Gun Channels are preppers, and do some prepping, but I don't really have a lot of knowledge besides just how to make tinctures and stuff. It's interesting to learn that by watching some videos, but I've never done it. It's like, and I'm not familiar enough with all the different herbs and how to use them. I know how to, do things with, technically, but I don't really know what any of the herbs do. I haven't really studied that. So yeah, you have to gain a lot of knowledge and spend some time.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Like, if you have a condition and you're trying to find something to help it, like say you have chronic allergies, okay, just seasonal kind of allergies or whatever. There's a book you can get called the Essential Oils Pocket Reference. It's awesome. You can look up allergies, and it's going to give you the very first oil that's mentioned is going to be the best one. The second one's going to be the next best one. Gives you little recipes of how many drops of the oils to put together. For somebody who has a lot of allergies, I have to be out hiking and stuff like that. And if you do have seasonal allergies, you take equal parts of lemon, peppermint, and lavender. Put those on the bottom of your feet, and you're good to go.
Yeah, one thing that's in my EDC bag, if anybody's watched my EDC video, is low dose aspirin. Because there's a guy with some heart issues. Just that's a great blood thinner that I take every day anyway, and so it's just great to have 81 milligram. Tiny. They're super tiny. You hardly need any water to pop a low dose aspirin, but that's all you need for the effect of blood thinning. Is 81. Having more is you don't need more for that effect. On your body. If you want to have a blood thinner, low dose aspirin will do the job, and you don't need a 1,000 milligrams of aspirin to.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there's no need for it.
And over time, like if you took 1,000 milligrams a day for a year, that's a lot different than taking 81 milligrams a day for a year, So, and over time it can have, people say, oh, well, my doctor just gave me, or said, take a regular aspirin. But over, the years, there can be side effects. So, anyway, that's what I take, and I would definitely, if I bugged out, I would grab my, medications, my atorvastatin and, statin drugs and my metoprolol. But the part that sucks about my particular health insurance is that even though if my doctor writes me like a prescription for like a 3-month bottle full of them, that the health insurance only pays for like 30 days of medications at a time. So I can't really stockpile the stuff. Thanks for stopping by, Troy. Appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Give us a thumbs up or something, and God bless. Take it easy.
Bye, Troy.
And let's see. So I know Dusty's more of a bug in person, and because he lives in Michigan and he has a farm, but he does have a bug out kind of RV, kind of an RV that he has loaded with food and water. But he's not into bags for some reason. So I don't know if he wants to.
I can sort of identify with that because I'm more of a bug in person too. That's kind of why I was asking about the bags. I found out that my younger brother has a bug out bag, and I'm thinking he has one and I don't. So that's kind of why I was, wondering about it. I mean, we could probably rig bug out bags for everybody in the family with a couple hours of digging through this and digging through that and getting everything organized. But it probably wouldn't be that much trouble to have something ready to go. And I like how you brought up that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't have one person carrying all of this, one person carrying all of that. Although I would probably do everything in my power to keep the family from getting separated. But I know I'd be carrying the biggest bag of the four of us in a situation.
But you haven't built your bug out bag yet, is what you're saying?
I have not, because I'd be more likely to bug in, just like Dusty.
Yeah, everybody wants to bug in. I want to bug in. Why would anybody want to bug out? But it's just, is there a situation that could occur where you would have to bug out, and you don't have a choice? And, are you ready to do it if you have to? That's not your first choice. But it could come,
Right.
It's net, like if there's a tidal wave coming, a big tsunami, then I don't have a fucking choice. I've got to bug out, right? So it's not like I would want to, leave all my, all my guns and ammo and, gold and silver and shit, it's like, no, I'm not going to leave all that stuff. I didn't put any gold and silver in my bug out bag. So, there's none of that in there, but I do have a satchel full of it. So, but it's not in a bug out bag. So,
well, here we're a lot like Oily. Really, our major threat that would maybe is tornadoes.
Do you have tornadoes in Michigan?
Tornadoes.
Oh yes, we had one a couple weeks ago.
Or yeah, we had high winds come through here and did more power outages in the state in that in the state's history.
Yeah, we've had in Hawaii we've had those water funnels offshore.
Those don't count.
If they kind of rain, they're tornadoes.
Yeah, no, they do count when they're like, then they come on shore and they get very close, or if you're on a boat, they count. But, like I said, I only live across a block away from the ocean. So water spouts are basically tornadoes.
But even then, tornadoes. Oh, go ahead, Squib.
Oh, no.
I was going to say tornadoes don't take a wide path. Usually a tornado's path is only 20 or 30 foot wide. So, I have enough buildings spread out on my property that if our house was gone, we probably would move into my shop or one of my other buildings on my property and get by for a few days.
And that may be true, although I'm in the area where we tend to have a lot of massive tornadoes. Like we had one that was 3 miles wide in the center of Oklahoma, in Moore, Oklahoma, a few years back. So they can get pretty massive here. But yeah, we have family with shops. We have a shop out here. We have several outbuildings, things like that. So bunking out would be our last resort, of course. But because we live in the middle of nowhere, we're not going to have to worry too much about masses of people coming if something major happened and robbing us, at least for a good while, eventually, of course, that could happen, but that would be.
And like I said, one time I was out in the middle of the field and seen one coming, and I ended up parking my tractor and crawling underneath my tractor and watching it go by.
And I've
been in tornadoes.
We've been getting a lot more hurricanes this year. Like I think Hawaii set a record for hurricanes. In hurricane season, I think it was like 16 hurricanes, and we usually get 1 or 2. So something weird was happening this year because we got like a record, and they always hit the Big Island first, almost always. So, but they usually hit the other side of the island first. So, but yeah, as far as if you're going to set out a bug out bag for your family, I guess try and organize it so, you have a bag for everybody that can, and you know how much they can carry, and you give them a load they can handle, and organize everything. So a lot of people put a lot of thought into bug out bags, I guess, and so, um, uh, as for myself, it was just the basics of shelter, filtration, a little bit of first aid, a compass, and, it's got a poncho, a tarp, and, uh, just the basics that I need, and it has a hydration bladder. So, um, so, I mean, I have a medical bag and other bags that I could throw other stuff in, but the bug out bag is just, the bare basics of what you need to survive, you know, um, and
How many days worth of food and water do you put in your bug out bag?
no, I don't even put any food hardly. So, maybe one freeze dried bag I think is in there. I mean, I would try and have more. If I was I had other bags that I could take with me, but I don't. My bug out bag is too full of other stuff to just start loading up bulk food cans and freeze dried. Freeze dried is weighs less than canned food, obviously, because there's no moisture at all. So, but as far as the water, it's got a full size Camelback bag and two and side pouches for two. What's the water bottle that everybody uses for Nalgene bottles? Two Nalgene bottles and a full. I think it's a mid size in my bug out bag, mid size bladder. My hydration bag, the Camelback has a bigger bladder than they're both Camelback bladders, but the Camelback sells different size bladders. I think one's like 100 liters or not liters, but 100 milliliters. It's their biggest bag. I forget the number, but I do have two of those those blue water containers and like an igloo water container that are always. I keep one of them full. One of the blue. It's those Canadian-made non-BPA water containers. I have multiple methods of water filtration in the bag, and so it's not just one method. A lot of people don't know that about water filtration. There's different ways to filter water. It's not just like the Sawyer. The Sawyer method is like it's like how small is a micron size, but there's other methods. Like I have that British one that the British military uses, but that costs a lot more, especially since it's from Britain. But it's a different method, but it actually pulls out more stuff, but it doesn't do it by having a small hole in the side. It's not just the size of the filter that matters. It's like an electrically charged filter that grabs the bad germs, and then on the outside, and then charcoal on the inside, and and then that plus, it doesn't hurt to have a coffee filter, as a first stage before you even, let it get to your other filters. I don't know if I would bring my gas mask with me to carry it if I didn't think I would need it. Depends what you're bugging out from. I don't think I would need a gas mask if I was bugging out from a tidal wave. But yeah, if somebody there was a nuclear war, then I might need a gas mask. So I did I did want to later in the chat talk about the World War I, the whole thing with chemical warfare, because as it was related to gas masks. But I wanted to try and finish up this bug out bag thing. I think it's really important that everybody have a bug out bag, because it's really just that if you do it in advance and you think watch other people's videos and then you try and figure out what they did that you think might apply to your situation, because everybody lives in a different spot, and where they would bug out to and how they would bug out is going to be different. And so you got to figure out what's right for you. because what's right for my bug out bag in Hawaii would not be right for somebody, in a colder, non-tropical climate, or somewhere on the mainland, or, the Yellowstone supervolcano blows, you might need to bug out. It's just every, your local area is different. You have different natural calamities, and and if there were World War III happens, or there's an economic collapse, and you had to bug out again, that's not really your first choice to bug out. Your first choice is to bug in, because it's just easier to stay at home and where you have everything, all your stuff.
One thing people need to consider, and I've seen a few people mention it, but not a whole lot, is a topographical map for your area. Because like even in the event of a tornado or something major happens, if you're having to get far enough away from your home, when you're coming back, once a tornado hits or something hits, you may, even a large tsunami, you're not necessarily going to be able to go by landmarks anymore. Those landmarks could be destroyed. So having a topographical map, a street map, so that you can count the sections as you're walking if you need to, so and things like that. Also, if they show where water's at, like if you're having to bug out and you're having to walk away, you need to know your fresh water places in the direction that you're going, and those maps can provide that. So those are things that are good to have, and you definitely don't want to just rely on your cell phone or your...
Oh yeah, the cell phones are the first thing to go. The cell phone towers go down as soon as the electric goes down.
For maps and things like that on their phones, but if something major were to happen and their phone wouldn't work, EMP or something like that, they need a hard copy to be able to have on hand, so that they can find that fresh water.
Yeah, I think another people might have to bug out is if they have to find a hospital for somebody in their family is sick, they have to make it to a hospital and get medical care. And an EMP, that would be like almost the worst thing that could happen to America is like, a nuclear explosion in space over the mainland. Take out, no banking transactions, no internet, no computers, no, people's cars, chips in their cars might not work.
Fuel can't like that. Everything's going to come to a stop if something like that were to happen.
Yeah, if you want to talk to somebody, you'll have to be standing next to them. You won't be able to call anybody up. There won't be any transactions of any kind that can be processed. And you won't be able to figure out how to do things by looking it up on YouTube. So
exactly. Do it while you can now, but get it down on paper so that you have that information. That's why I have a lot of books here. A lot of people just do digital downloads. I have books on fonder medical terminology. I have them on my herbals, which I don't know a lot about herbals. I know about essential oils because that's what I've studied, but how to get that extract that from a plant other than tinctures, you got me. So
there's a playlist on, if you join Gun Channels, there's a playlist in the gunchannels.com/prepper section.
We'll have to do that.
Yeah, it was from a lady that was on one of our chats who lives in Vancouver, so you might want to check that out to get around to joining Gun Channels. But anyway, let's see. It's Eric was right. I think those are 3 liter 100 ounce is the largest version the Camelback sells. Let's see. I think that all the medical knowledge that I got I learned the hard way, by in the hospital,
But that's one of the areas people are like to do real glamorous stuff, like the guns and the, all the high-techy stuff to have in their bags and things, and they overlook medical a lot. They just throw a couple of antibiotic ointments and a couple of Band-Aids in there, and
there's more to that. But that goes a long way. One thing that I added that most people don't think about to my medical bag which isn't in my bug out bag, but it was important, is saline solution to clean out wounds. Because if you get a cut, and you bandage it, you're going to have to take off that bandage and clean the wound every day. If you don't clean it, it won't heal. And so basically
several times a day, depending on where you're trudging through.
Yeah, I mean, after my surgery, the surgeon yelled at me that I had to take a shower every day, clean the wound with a saline solution, change the bandage every fucking day. I couldn't skip days because it wouldn't heal, without me doing that. So basically, I got a lot of practice the hard way, changing out my own bandages. So basically, the saline solution that they sell at Walmart or Long's Drugs or someplace like that, or CVS or whoever, it's basically a spray can, and it's just purified water with a little bit of salt in it, and you use that, and you spray out the wound. You take off the old bandage, you tape on medical tape and some gauze, and you just slap it on. There's no special bandage, just tape and gauze, and you spray it to clean out the wound, because you have to clean out all your bodily oozing that oozes out in the wound. And if you don't, it won't heal. So,
it's a breeding ground for all kinds of bacteria.
Yeah, you will get an infection and you will die painfully if you don't clean out your. So I think that saline solution was an important, and along with gauze and medical tape, isn't one of those things that people look. But I have a whole medical bag, for all of my medical stuff, and it's bigger than my bug out bag. So. But it's lighter than my bug out bag because it's not. Most of the stuff medical stuff is very lightweight. But there's you could go crazy. There's there's some really good YouTube channels that specialize in that kind of thing. You could check out. I don't remember all the name of them, but I'm not. This isn't a separate medical bag is a really important thing to have, because I would definitely, that would be the second thing that I would grab. It would be my medical bag, because that's all ready to go too. Just except I throw in my medications, which I have in the cupboard. I don't keep my meds in the bag. Let's see.
And to go back to Squib, his duct tape works good for wounds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you will have to take it off and put it back on every day, which could be painful. But
I would recommend getting sport tape. Get athletic tape instead of first aid tape, because it's more water resistant, and you can also use it to wrap around other things like handles or anything you have to grip, anything that's going to wear. But the athletic tape, even though you have to cut it off with a knife, if you're in a situation where you won't be able to change the bandage easily, or you might be getting it wet or just rubbing against something, that sport tape will hold out better.
There's medical tape that you can also just tear in strips and pull those wounds together too. Patriot Nurse taught us at her classes.
Well, yeah, the good thing about medical tape is that it if you get tape, that it doesn't hurt to take it off. When you're done with it, and you have to throw it away and put on more tape. You don't want it if you have to change the wound every day or twice a day and clean it. Then you don't want to have tape that it's going to hurt to take it off, because that will discourage you from cleaning your wound, and then it'll get infected and you die. So there's good points to having tape that's not so strong, like medical tape, as opposed to some super strong tape, like Gorilla Tape or something. That might not be the best thing to use on your wound. So you have to use whatever is appropriate for the situation. I mean, having duct tape is great. If you need it, you need it.
A lot of those tapes also contain latex, and a lot of people are allergic to latex, so people have to remember that as well. So
I'm not allergic to latex.
A lot of leaks with duct tape, because duct tape's what's in my equipment, and I have hurt myself, and I've repaired a lot of leaks with it already.
Yeah, I had to change my bandages every day from the incisions from my. They made 4 incisions on my leg to pull out Harpist arteries for my heart surgery. So I had to change that out every day, So it wasn't fun, but I did it, and I had those cans of spray, or I would just jump in the shower. I had to be careful. I couldn't walk very well back then because, it was just, I had four, they took, ripped open my leg and my heart. So I wasn't moving around too spryly, but, I learned all my lessons the hard way in the hospital, on how to do things. But anyway, it was, but yeah, it was cold in the rehab hospital Pacific. That's what I remember the most. So I really appreciate walking in the sunshine, on warm days like today. It was beautiful. I was, out there in the sunshine, barbecuing something, and, jumped in the pool and the hot tub and stuff, and just walking in the sunshine every day. It's a blessing from God, especially in Hawaii. It's a beautiful place. The weather's great. I know it's cold back east where you guys are, but we don't have that particular problem as far as, having to worry about freezing. We don't have to worry too much about hypothermia unless you're on the very top of the mountain, one of the volcanoes. It does snow like on the top, but most people don't, I'm not planning on bugging out like above 13,000 feet or something where the telescopes are. But I would just, I would pick somewhere in the jungle, one of the cloud rainforests, where we get all the water we need. I could just put out a baggie and collect my water and then filter it. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, the Marines are. We talked about how badass the Marines are. When they go into battle, the Marines' reputation precedes them. Even in Somalia, they've obviously heard of Iwo Jima, and they just will not engage the U.S. Marines because the Marines kick ass. And everybody knows it. So they will be your worst enemy. I wouldn't want to fight a Marine, especially wouldn't want to fight a battalion of Marines. Jesus. But they're also your best friends. And so anyway, if you're an American. So, all right. Anything else on bug out bags before I go into my gas mask thing from the History Channel? Any other questions? I didn't look on the gun channel side. I was looking at the YouTube feed. Get over there. Gun channels. Let's see. Do you use your bags in the car as a bug back? So, you're talking. Let's see. Psycho Camp is talking about get home bags. I don't have a get home bag in my car. The problem with my car having it in Hawaii is that it's really hot, and so anything that you keep in your car, I have some stuff that I keep in my car. Like I keep my rifle target in my car, and I keep like a table in my car. It's like two steel sawhorses and a long plank of plywood in my car. And it's so I can set up a table at the range, but if I have to set up a camp, it's nice to have a table. It's just two sawhorses and a long piece of plywood. And so I have a table in my car. It's a useful bug out thing to have, but I don't really have a car get home bag or a car bug out bag, Can't answer that question on the gun channel side.
I don't either, but that's something I do want to work on, is having a get home bag. Just something like mainly what you were saying for your bug out bag, I want for my get home bag.
Well, yeah, my bug out bag has a few little extra jungle extras. Most people's bug out bag probably don't have face paint and stuff, camouflage face paint and stuff, but
I got mud. I got water and dirt. I'll just use mud.
Mud works, and in like my Mad Max, have like my Mad Max battle vest, the South African Defense Force 63 was it? I forget what pattern it was. It's my Mad Max bag. It's the Nutria camo pattern. Basically, what that is it's meant to be how it works is you dip it in mud and get all the local of from like a river, or just any kind of dirt and mud, and the dirt and mud is supposed to be part of the camo. You're supposed to have that. If you just wear the nutria, it's not very good camo. But if you dip it in mud and let it dry and cake on there and never wash it ever, and you keep all the low dirt from the area that you live, that's how it's supposed to be used, and it works as camo. And so a lot of people that bought the Mad Max vest because it was in Fury Road don't know that about it. But I did my research. There's a lot of costume people, and no, I didn't cut off the water pouches just because they were cut off in the Mad Max. I kept the water pouches on my vest. The water pouch, there's like a couple of pockets on the vest that they cut off for Mad Max that you can put 2-quart canteens in on the side, and I kept those on mine. So, but I really haven't, rigged out my battle vest because I don't think I will ever actually need to deploy my battle vest, and for, that kind of, I do have one, because after I saw Fury Road, I ran out, bought my Glock 17, and I got that battle vest, South African Defense Force Nutrient battle vest. But that's not my bug out bag or anything. That's just my fun battle vest, which I hoping to never have to use unless the aliens attack, in which case I'll figure out how to load it up with all the ammo I can carry, and I'll be, I'd rather, corral one of the coffee mules that they used to have mules actually, carry all the coffee down from the farms to the boats back in the day. So there's like a lot of donkeys around here, basically, coffee donkeys in Kona from way back, and they're like wild, and they live, like they'll be sometimes you'll be going down the main highway, and there'll be like a couple of donkeys crossing the highway, but because they used to have them. They used to have them, and they would be great to carry, your shit, if you could find one and corral one. I'd rather just, if I had to bug out, I'd rather just throw everything in my blazer that I need and then go into the jungle where no one will see me until whatever the situation is has ended and, the grid has come back up. But, if the grid is down, you have to, go somewhere to get out of, Dodge, and you have to bug out. It's good to have all that stuff planned out, at least to the point where you have a bag you can grab and you got everything covered. And trying to put all that together and just have it somewhere in your house, and then, you have 15 minutes to leave your house or 10 minutes to leave your house, and trying to put it all in a bag or throw it all in your car, you probably won't even be able to find it. I mean, shit. After I came back and like my contractor had remodeled my bathroom, it took me 2 weeks just to find a fork, so, but I know where my bug out bag was. It was where I left it. So if I have to bug out, I will be ready, but it took me 2 weeks to find a fork. I mean, they totally rearranged my kitchen anyway. Let's not into that. I wanted to, does anybody have anything more on bug out bags? Because I just wanted to spend 5 minutes on my gas mask info. Because I think the last video I posted was my gas mask. I'm going to look on the YouTube side again.
If you look at the chat, Dano has a question for Oily of what drug that she would want to have with her. Let's see. Let me go back to it here.
Ampicillin, clidamycin, Ceflax, Ciproflox, penicillin, metronidazole. Yeah, what you said. And amoxicillin. Yes.
Well, it's going to depend on who in my family it would be for, because some people are allergic to several of those in antibiotics, and I refuse to take any kind of fluoroquinolones like Cipro or things like that unless it's basically anthrax. But for me, a basic penicillin or amoxicillin would be best for me, but it really depends what your planning on treating, because kidney infection or something like that's going to be different than a wound infection or a sinus infection or an ear infection. So it really depends. It's really best to have a couple of different varieties on hand. I have cephalexin and plain penicillin myself, but I really need to work on getting some others that would work for kidney infection and things like that. So
I don't even know how you get a kidney infection, but
well, some people's kidneys just don't function very well, and other people wipe incorrectly and introduce bacteria where it don't belong, and it travels up the urinary tract, kidneys, the bladder, and kidneys. So there's a lot of different ways. Or if somebody's prone to kidney stones, bacteria can build up in the areas where the urine's not able to clear out as well. Stays there, and bacteria love to grow there.
Okay, one of the things in my medical kit that one of the first things I ever did a video on was at like Long's or Walmart, you can get a small bottle of Hibiclens. That's what surgeons use to scrub before they operate. So it's you don't want to overuse it, but it will basically completely wash your hands or anywhere else you have to clean the bacteria on your skin off. It's chlorhexidine gluconate is the active ingredient. It's like this red colored soap that it's got red dye in it, so don't get it on your white t-shirt. But it's basically, you can use it to clean your hands, keep your hands clean. Sanitation is like one of the major advancements of mankind. So if the grid goes down, you're going to want a way to keep your shit clean so you don't get infections.
There are also essential oil blends that I use personally for my kidney infections if I get it. I don't like to take antibiotics unless it's a last resort. Not anti-medicine at all, but I try to do natural if I can. And so Purification and Thieves, both diluted.
Okay, somebody's mentioned Red Dawn, and since I was talking about sanitation, I remember when they're cleaning, then they're grabbing everything in that store as they're about to bug out into the mountains, so they grab toilet paper, and there is toilet paper in my bug out bag.
Yes, definitely. The Purification and Thieves in a little bit of oil over your bladder and kidneys. In about 30 minutes, or the next time you go to the restroom, you will actually smell those oils in your urine because it absorbs through the bladder through the abdomen into the kidneys, or through the back into the kidneys. So that's an alternative to have, in your bag, and I have that in my bug out bag.
Okay, what oil was that again? What essential oil was that?
There's Thieves, Thieves, has all kinds of antibacterial property.
I never heard of that one. Okay.
And then Purification. It has a smell of citronella in it because it has citronella essential oil in it. So it helps stave off some bugs as well. Like if you can just put it on your wrists or your neck or wherever as your.
I have the DDT off in my bug out bag too, or my medical bag.
Right. But the Purification also has very high antifungal properties as well. So those two combined together, it can take care of a lot of different types of infections, or antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. So if I was to recommend any oils for somebody to have based on those three deals, those would be the two that I would recommend most in their staples. I have quite a few bottles of that, and it only takes 2 to 3 drops each use. So, and you can even take that internally, the Thieves, not the Purification. You can take the Thieves internally to help fight off anything, even tooth infection. You can rub it over the infected tooth, on the outside of the mouth over the infected tooth. So that's a good one to have on hand as well.
Vodka. Wait a minute, Squib. I have plenty of Costco vodka, but it's not in my bug out bag, unfortunately.
He said, "What about cranberry juice?" Well,
cranberry juice is awesome,
with vodka.
Cranberry vodka.
Cranberry juice for kidney infections is really great. You just have to make sure it's not the kind that has a lot of sugar added to it, because then that's going to defeat the purpose. So
I want to give a shout out to everybody in the external on YouTube and on the gunchannels.com side. You got Zero Pence from the UK. I hope you guys are all safe over there. Patrick, who else? David's Fish Tanks. I think I ran into him on Noble's chat, or I don't know. There's a lot of preppers kind of people and bushcrafting people chats out there on YouTube, and it's like a growing community. It's a cross between people who are into knives, building knives. Oily's ready to have me ramble about my gas mask. Yeah. Well, basically, I just wanted to say that like the whole thing with gas started from World War I, and I was watching the Military History Channel. So basically, it's in World War I. This was like, there was a convention in the Hague Convention back in 1896, whenever they signed the Hague Convention, and chemical warfare was what the Hague Convention says was that they couldn't use artillery shells with chemical agents in them. So what the Germans did was they had lots of chlorine, and this was trench warfare. So they didn't use, they followed the Hague Convention. They didn't use artillery shells at first. They just brought up a bunch of canisters of chlorine gas, and they waited for a while until the wind was blowing away from them and towards the French and the British. And this was right before America wasn't in the war yet. And so they opened the cans, and nobody had ever seen, chlorine gas before, and nobody knew what to do. Nobody had gas masks, and there was this big cloud that just moved towards the trenches, towards the French. And the medical people, the French medical personnel in the army, said they knew what it was as soon as they smelled chlorine gas. So they told everybody to piss on their bandanas and put their bandanas over their mouth, because the bandanas would be, the urine has ammonia in it, and the chlorine gas the ammonia would negate the effect of the chlorine gas. But most people didn't understand that, and they just ran, and basically or they made a mistake, and what and they, because what in World War I, what would you do if you were under fire is you would dive down into the trench, and which was the worst thing you could possibly do, because the gravity caused all the chlorine gas to sink into all the trenches. So, and the chlorine gas causes people's lungs to perspire and fill up with liquids, and so they couldn't breathe, and they basically would be drowning, and they gasping for air. And so like thousands of people died. But the thing is, tactically, the Germans advanced. With this one gas attack, they punched like a 4-mile hole in the lines, and they advanced. But then the French counterattacked the next day, and in the end, there was basically a 500 yards is all the lines moved, and then the French responded. They invented like phosgene gas or something like that, and basically what that did is it was invisible, so that they couldn't see it coming. And the Germans, and they used that, and then the Germans, got attacked with that, and a lot of them died. And then they figured out what it was, and then the Germans started using the phosgene gas, because what it did was, after the first attack, they started coming up with some kind of gas mask, right? The first rudimentary gas mask in case of gas attack, and which, by the time it got to the lines, nobody knew. But the phosgene gas actually ate through the filter and destroyed the filter, and then it would kill them even if they were wearing a gas mask. So because it attacked the filter, and then by the time, so after years, this was basically like the weapon of mass destruction of World War I, gas attacks. So by the time, and then after they sank the Lusitania and America got into the war, then Americans came over, but they had instructors that came over from officers, from the English and French officers who had taught them how to use the gas masks, but they, there was still gas attacks, and I think about 70,000 Americans were victims of gas attacks, and during World War I. And by the end of the war, they were using artillery shells with chemical, and the Germans came up with mustard gas, which was a different kind of a gas, and all in all, there were about 20 different kinds of gases that were used in World War I. And mustard gas was more of a blistering agent, and it doesn't really kill anybody. Who left you? Oily? I'm just watching when you're typing in the external right now. So mustard gas is like a blistering agent that didn't really kill hardly anybody, but it put people out. It put the soldiers out of commission in large numbers because it would get under their uniforms, and it would cause their skin to blister badly. So if it got in your underarms, or you became immobile basically. And so mustard gas was a blistering agent that was used. So having a gas mask didn't really stop, because you would need a complete chemical suit to keep the mustard gas from getting in. And by the end of the war, even though it was against the Hague Convention, after the war got just crazy, it was just, it was, nobody cared anymore about the Hague Convention. They were just, using artillery shells because they could put it on the enemy, and they didn't have to wait until the wind was blowing in the right direction or anything like that. And there was some other stuff on the History Channel about how the British, about underground warfare, how tunneling warfare, how they would dig under the German lines, and the Germans did this too. And they would basically, at one point in the war, that they dug 20 tunnels, and they put 450 tons of explosives and blew them all up at once. It was, but it took so long. They could only do that one time during the war, and there was trench and counter trench warfare. People would listen, but basically the whole thing with gas masks is that after I guess gas masks have improved quite a bit. So who knows what they have come up with in over the years that they have not used. If World War III ever starts, and between the Russians and the Americans, chemical warfare and shit like that, whatever's let loose in the world. I mean, North Korea, obviously, they just used VX gas to assassinate, Kim Jong-un's brother in was it Kuala Lumpur Airport? So they sprayed him in the face with VX gas. So you don't usually bring your gas mask to an airport, which he should have, I guess. But I guess if you're Kim Jong-un's brother, you're just going to be shit out of luck. You were born under an unlucky star, I guess. But he has threatened to recently to launch a nuclear attack if anybody fires one bullet at North Korea. So it pays to have a bug out bag. And as far as my gas mask goes, I think it's useful to know the history of warfare, as far as chemical warfare from World War I. But it became less relevant because even civilians, after World War I, got trained to use a gas mask. I mean, I have a gas mask now, and I have a U.S. military gas mask that I bought and did a video on, and I just got some extra filters for it. And
Unique just brought up a good question in the chat.
Okay.
The filters you just got today, is there an expiration date for shelf life of those filters?
I think those filters have there's a manufacture date on them. They're of 2016. And so when you look on Amazon, look to see, what the manufacture date is. So, because I think they're good for 5 years, and
okay, so they're basically saying they have a 5-year shelf life then, right?
Yeah. And the filters are important, so don't get just the cheapest ones. I mean, obviously, if the filters are expired past their expiration date, they may not do you any good. And, it's gas masks are one of those things that you hope you never need, but if you need them, you're going to need a filter that works, So there's some things you just don't go cheap on. And I would guess gas mask filters are one of them, like rings on your scope for your rifle is another one. Yeah, I know that basically the British and the French suffered more gas casualties than, World War I was, not just trench warfare. I guess it almost makes you glad they invented the tank, I mean, because it was just, all the battles that were World War I. I mean, they like hundreds of thousands of people died just to move a line like 200 yards one way or the other. I mean, I just can't even almost fathom that war in between, gas, chemical warfare and stuff. I mean, that's why they banned it after World War I. But I think with the, the Blitzkrieg and, mechanized tanks, and armored columns that trench warfare became, obsolete, and so did chemical warfare. I mean, I guess everybody still had a gas mask, and some people think of flamethrowers as, chemicals, but using gasoline. They had flamethrowers in World War I as well, so in the trenches. But yeah, war really sucks. I'm just going to say that peace is a lot better than war. I mean, but we don't always, especially as civilians, we don't have control over these things, and sometimes even our leaders won't have control over, if a war starts. But I think the only reason a major war will start is people just forget how bad it really is. So anyway, I've got my gas mask. It's cool. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or say before I give my gun channels plug? About bug out bags, gas masks, anything.
Just that I need to get some for our family. That's the one thing I don't have is gas masks. I need to get them.
Yeah, well, one thing is, because I live near a volcano, and if there's a pyroclastic expulsion from the volcano, and there's a lot of.
Oh yeah, that's understandable.
And on the mainland, it would be if the Yellowstone supervolcano ever goes, or Russia nukes the Yellowstone volcano and a chance to make it go, or anybody does, then that would be, you would need a gas mask to filter out all the expulsions.
Nuclear facility and facilities in California, and where is it? Where's the other state in the southwestern part of this country? Is it New Mexico or Arizona?
Where what?
Nuclear facility.
They're all over the place. I mean,
yeah, they're all over.
Well, those are the two that we would have a high likelihood of the wind bringing in.
I remember San Onofre in California. People would there's all a bunch of surfers that were all up in arms about nuclear excretions from the power plant messing up the surfing or something like that. Because it was apparently there's good waves right next to where the reactors are off San Onofre nuclear power plant in California. If memory serves from way back when I used to surf in California, when dinosaurs walked the earth.
There's an amphibious warfare base right there. They shouldn't be surfing over there.
People, if there's waves, they're gonna surf. If there's waves, surfers are gonna surf. Good luck stopping surfers.
Just go down the street to Oceanside and surf there.
Don't blame me. That's I gotta check the gun channel side.
Nuclear power plant just west of Phoenix.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
That's one I can think of. That's the one that doesn't use cooling water from a river or lake or the ocean. It gets its water for cooling from the Phoenix sewer system.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's the only one that's like that. It's a really big facility of it. Actually, I've stood right next to it before. I can't think of the name of it though. It's in Wintersburg or Tonopah. Yeah, it's west of Phoenix.
There's a really interesting picture I saw on YouTube somewhere or on of a crater, I think in Arizona, called Winslow Crater, of an asteroid impact that somebody visited. I think I'm going to use it for my thumbnail for this chat. But so I want to say hello over on the Gun Channel side to G-Web, Psycho Camp, Clay, Enrique. Who else is over there? Red. Jared, do you just change your name on Gun Channels? Red. Jared Walsh, Red Flip, or Rupin Walsh. No, that's somebody else. My Gun Channel is this avatar is a little freaky here. Okay, so I'm not sure I'm reading. There's Dano, Ohio, 45, all the usual characters over on Gun Channel. So I got my gas mask at Sportsman's Guide, oily, and I got the filters off of Amazon. So other than that, I'm just going to say check out gunchannels.com. It's free to join, and it's a lot of Second Amendment people over there. If you're interested in, doing Second Amendment activism and, supporting the Second Amendment organizations, it's a good place to start. Everybody's got to pick a place to make your stand, to, fight for freedom and stuff. So that's a good place to start. And there's also a lot of gun information and a lot of people with a lot of firearms knowledge, if you're learning, it's a good place to start. Gunchannels.com/HVS is where my text chat is. And I've also got gunchannels.com/prepper for where I try and post some prepping oriented things on there. And so do a few other people. It's free to join. And there's, they sell some really cool patches. Oily, you got a patch in the mail headed to you from the contest a couple weeks ago. I had some medical stuff to do this week. So it just took a while for me to get putting something in the mail and doing all the stuff. Because I had a bunch of medical appointments just, to draw blood and do some tests and some stuff. But anyway, with that said, any shout outs anybody wants to do before we close it out? I just want to say
thank you for having me on as a guest. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Great input on botanicals and stuff, and everybody helps each other out. So thanks everybody for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Check us out on Gun Channel. Say hi. I try and do this chat every Monday. Y'all come back real soon. What does Edge say? How does he close out his chat? I'm trying to remember his phrase so I can steal it. Oh, well, I'll have to try and remember it so I can steal it next week. But it ends with keep your groups tight. Anyway, all right, let me see if I can find my way to the actual chat window so we can end it. I don't know. Ohio 45, I don't think that's Ohio Wolverine. I think that's a different person. It's a guy with on Gun Channels with I assume he owns a 45. So.
Okay.
All right. Fight the good fight and keep your groups tight. See you next week.